Hey guys, how you doing? Today I'm doing a completely ridiculous and unnecessary video. However, even though I think this video it doesn't need to exist, I'm using it as a conversation to basically just talk about the characters individually in this game. I'm also going to be redefining their stats because I find that the game's stats are completely inaccurate. They're more like a good guess, like a good estimation, like this is kind of what they are. So I went ahead and bumped it from 3 stars for every stat to 5 stars for every stat. That way we can have a more accurate description of the character's stats. And this video is also going to double as my thoughts and opinions on this game. And but I think I will just make a separate review video, but I'm going to be revealing a lot of my thoughts on this game. And I'll tell you right now, I love this game, and I want to keep playing it with everyone. I have it on Switch, and I beat the crap out of it on that. And now that I realize it's on Game Pass on PC and Xbox, I'm playing the PC version on Game Pass and getting some Xbox achievements because, hey, I still want to get some achievements. So I'm happy that everyone's getting a chance to play this thanks to Game Pass, and everyone who doesn't have Game Pass, it's only $25. So fantastic game. But this video isn't really me telling you who to play as. If you haven't played the game yet, I really just recommend playing as every character. There's plenty of levels. So as you're playing through the campaign, just back out and switch to different characters. Though eventually you do want to try to get at least one to level 10, or at least a very high level by the time you get to the end of the game, by the time you get to the final boss. But that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into this. I'm going to go ahead and use the tier list as the thumbnail to clickbait anyway, but here's the tier list on screen now. And as you can see, now, if you've played the game, you probably agree with at least the top 4, but you might not agree with my number 1 pick or anything like that. So I'm going to go into it individually, because some people probably think that Casey Jones is probably the best character in the game, or maybe even April, but I'm going to go into my details on why, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the true stats, if you will. So right off the bat, Donatello has 5 stars in range. I did this because him and Casey both are considered to have 3 stars in range, but Donatello clearly has more range than him. I don't know why they put that. I guess he does have more range than other characters, but Donatello has the most range in the game by like a metric landslide, like a huge amount of range compared to other people. And now his power being 3 instead of 2, that's because 2 is the average stat in the game. Like most characters just have 2 strength. So I went ahead and put it on 3 just to represent it's completely in the middle. And his speed is 2 just like in the actual game. And that's because I do believe he is a little bit quicker than certain other characters. But I also, even though Raphael has a slightly faster walking speed, his attack animations are, it seemed like they're slower. So I feel like between Raph and Donnie, you really don't feel much different. Like, the speed is roughly around the same. The only character you really feel the difference for is Mikey and April, who really feel faster, but that's about it. Everyone else kind of feels roughly around the same level of speed. So, and except, I think Splinter's a little bit slower. But for the most part, Donatello, first of all, let's talk about mechanics in this game. In this game, you don't really need to be sprinting constantly, unless you want to get in a close like dash attack on someone you really want to hit, or if you use a slide attack to get under a projectile, for example. But really, if there's a character close by, what you should be doing is doing your backflip and then pressing attack. I always call the backflip the dodge roll, because that's pretty much what it is. So I like to call it the dodge roll attack, but the official name is the flying attack. It's just when you say flying attack, people think of your double jump attack or your jumping dive kick. They think of that. So I think it's best if I just say dodge roll attack, but it's technically it's called the flying attack. But by using the flying attack, you can maneuver around the screen very easily. So you really just don't need that speed at all, especially if you're playing single player. Speed is completely useless as a stat. So if a character has only 1 speed, it's completely fine to play as him, aka Donatello. and Splinter, but in multiplayer, at that point, certain characters might be flying all over the screen and getting all the kills and not letting you level up. But, you know, unless you're playing 6-player, that's really not an issue. Even in 5-player, I found that I was able to keep track of what the hell was going on. Yeah, so Donatello's range also, it hits so many people, like, from so far, that you really don't even need the speed. He's actually just balanced. He's a perfectly balanced character, but he's balanced in the way where it rewards you for picking the most important stat in the game, which is the range. Another stat that is not important at all is power. It doesn't matter because April's the only character in the game with 1 power, and she can kill people just as easily as anyone else. I think she kills people with a 4-hit combo just like everyone else, so I don't understand the point of that. And also she has multi-hitting attacks, but we'll get into her soon. The last thing is I actually listed pros and cons for every character. Donatello doesn't have any cons, he only has pros. But I only listed the 1 pro, which is he has the best super move in the game. The area of effect is huge. It's this huge dome attack, and it also lasts much longer than other people's, and it pulls them inside as well. So it's basically the best super in the game. Now, I will say this about Donatello. A lot of characters have very high, powerful jumping supers, like their dive attack super. They're very strong, and that's basically what you want to do to bosses if you're playing as most of the characters. Donnie's is like pretty lackluster. I don't know why, but I feel like it does like no damage at all. That's probably his only flaw, but I didn't list it. The reason why I didn't list it as a flaw is because you don't have to use it. His normal super does more damage than most other characters' air supers. Like, his normal super is better than Mikey's, April's, Leonardo's air supers. So it's a useless move. It sucks because when you get to level 3, you basically learn something, you get a new level up, and the one thing you get is something you're not going to use very much. But, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you don't need that move at all, and his base super is so freaking good that you can just get off with that. So, Donatello, in my opinion, has 0 flaws, because the only things he's flawed at are things that don't matter in this game. And everything he excels at, you know, his pros and cons, all of his pros are in the fields that are good. So, obviously, Donatello is famous for being the best character in all the beat-em-ups, and it's hilarious that there's no exception here, but it's not purely just based off of one little thing. The fact that he has the most range in his attacks, but also that his super is so devastatingly powerful, is like, wow. Like, seriously, Donatello is a mainstay. If you're going to play 2-player, if you're going to play 3-player or 4-player, then it's like having Donatello is a no-brainer. Like, if you're playing as Leo, Mikey, and Raph with no Don, that just does not add up. That's just not smart. Like, obviously the game isn't, like, the game's difficulty really just depends on your skill level, but Donatello is so good that there's just no reason not to use him if you have that many players. If you're playing 1-player or 2-player, I understand, you don't really need to use Donatello there, but I mean, it's freaking Donatello, man. He's the king of these beat-em-ups, and it's no exception for this game. I came into this game wanting to like Michelangelo more, or possibly even Leonardo more, but, you know, and I played as Leo and Mikey in the beat-em-ups typically. But I found myself enjoying the game most when I was playing as Donatello. And yeah, so for me personally, I gotta say my favorite character to play as is Donatello. He's not my favorite turtle in the shows or movies. He's not my favorite turtles in the other games. But in this game, he just slaps. And I think he's so good that anyone would want to play him. Next up is April O'Neil. Now, April, I don't have a 5 speed for her. I just have 4, just like Michelangelo will have, you'll see coming up pretty shortly. But it doesn't really matter. You know, April is so damn fast that, like, you definitely feel it. When you play as her and Mikey, you feel it compared to the other turtles. And she also has very quick and very good normal attacks. And the range on them is very decent. I went ahead and put it with 3, which I think is what I gave Leonardo as well. Yes, I did. I gave Leonardo a 3 in range as well. I think they're probably the only two who have a 3 in range like that. Or no, I think someone else does too. I think I gave Splinter a 3 in range as well. They're really good. Like, this is great range, and for this speed, that's really good. So, obviously, if you want to play as like a really good character, if Donnie's already taken, the most similar to Donnie is probably Leonardo. But if you just want to play as a fast character, then April is your girl. She has very similar attributes to Michelangelo, but she's just better. She's pretty much just a better version of Michelangelo. Like I said, like there's really no reason to... There is some reason to play as Mikey over her, but for the most part, if you want to play as April and she's taken, then pick Michelangelo. Or if you want to play as Michelangelo and she's taken, or and he's taken, then pick April O'Neil. April is very, very good at basically everything in this game. So her, as you can see, I put in the little description here, great flying attack. And again, I'm talking about the dodge roll attack. When she does it, she pulls out her mic stand and she hits you with that. So it's a very long-ranged attack. It's very nice. And also wrote down multi-hit DP. Now, when I say DP, I'm referring to... I don't even know what it's called in this game. Maybe it's like a rising attack or whatever. But basically, if you press jump and attack at the same time, you do an attack upward. In the fighting game community, we call this a DP, which stands for Dragon Punch. So think of like Shoryuken from Street Fighter. Though Chun-Li has a DP in Street Fighter games, I don't think in Street Fighter 2 original, but in later Street Fighter games, she just like Michelangelo, she does like a multi-hit move. It's literally Chun-Li's DP from Street Fighter, and which is really fun. I love the little tributes. She just hits hard, hits fast, and that's the other thing too. If you notice, for power, I put 3-star instead of 1-star. She's supposed to get 1-star. I shit you not, it does not matter at all. You can kill foot soldiers with a 4-hit combo just like any other character in the game. It's really more like, it's not that she's like a 1-star on power, it's more like she's a 1.5 or something. Like, she can't be that much weaker than Michelangelo. And that's what I'm saying. People might be like, okay, well, Mikey has more power, so if you care about power, then why would you pick April? You would want to pick Mikey, right? And after all, you don't want to be ganged up on by a bunch of foot soldiers, so having power is a good thing. Having no power should be bad. But April's the only character with 1-star in power, and it doesn't matter. She is just as capable as everyone else. I think they only put that there to make it seem like she was balanced, because everyone else only has 6 stars, besides Casey, who has 7 stars. But no, instead, she's just really, really capable. And yeah, I mean, these are great stats. You might think like, oh, but Donnie had a 5. Yeah, but because she's so balanced, she's got a lot going on for her. And also, like I said, the multi-hit DP and all that stuff, like that boosts her up. Because I'm about to show you Casey, and Casey's gonna have better stats than her, but it doesn't matter because of her multi-hits and her other like abilities. And yeah, her only flaw I put was her super. Now, her air super, again, just like Leonardo and Michelangelo, if you want to do a lot of damage, do your air super. That will kill bosses very easily. She also has this like forward super that does a shit ton of damage. I don't know how to activate it, but I just need to look into this. But she basically has this full-on like rushdown combo. It's really fun to watch. Yeah, so for the most part, yeah, that one super isn't that good, but once you unlock the diving super, that's what you're going to be doing against the bosses. Her main super will be good for clearing out waves of enemies. It's like her and Raphael are the only two in the game that you move side to side with, like you can control their super's movement. But you're not going to be wanting to do that on bosses. Against bosses, you're going to want to be slamming the camera into them, which does way more damage. And so it's not like her super holds her back in any capacity. It actually, just like how Donatello's, it doesn't matter that he has bad supers because his one is so good. With April, you just have to know to use one against crowds of enemies and one to use against the boss, and you'll be fine. So she's perfectly capable as a fighter. Next on the list is Casey Jones. Now, Casey Jones is a secret character, so you cannot just pick him right off the bat and start kicking ass. You do have to unlock him. This game's not too hard to unlock him with. It's not too hard to beat the final, like to beat the game or anything. And, you know, it's a good reward to have a character that's really strong after you beat the game, because then if you breeze through it easier, it's like you earned that. But I'm glad that at least one of the turtles is still the best character in the game. It would have been sad if a turtle wasn't the best character in the game. But I think a lot of people, if you don't like Donnie's playstyle, if you rather pick, that's the thing. Some people, even though I have Donnie as number 1, some people might just prefer April because she's faster. And that's okay. So, you remember how I said if April is already picked and you want to play as April, then you should pick Mikey? Well, you can also just pick Casey. Now, Casey's stats in the game are supposed to be 3 range, equal to Donatello, 2 power, equal to most characters besides Raphael, April, and Splinter, and 2 speed, equal to Leonardo, equal to, who else? Is it just Leonardo? Oh, Raphael. Yeah, equal to Leonardo and Raphael. So it's like, okay, so he's just like Raphael, but with more range, right? No. 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 It says he has 2 speed, but his attack animations are so fast that it feels like he has 3 speed. So I went ahead and gave him 4 speed, which is me literally saying he's just as fast as Mikey and April. Yes, and I stand by that. I also gave him 4 power. Now, I don't know, I think that he still kills people not as fast as Raph, but his attacks are so fast that he feels like he's insanely powerful. And now, his range is 4. I gave him 4 range because the game has him listed as 3 range and has Donnie listed as 3 range, but I gave Donnie 5 stars because he's just got more range than Casey. Just straight up does. They are not the same. Again, those stars are just estimations. Like this is like a ballpark area of their of their stats or whatever. But I will say, I definitely feel like Casey's hockey stick when he sticks all the way out. I think when he uses like a goalie stick for the move I'm thinking of. A lot of his moves do actually have longer range than almost every other character. So I think like he really should have like a 2.5 range and not like a 3 range. But for this, I'm going to go ahead and say 4. Mainly because I think that not every character has a 3 in range. And I think Leonardo, April, and Splinter are good examples of a 3 in range. And so I think Casey has slightly more than them. So he deserves that 4 in range. But yeah, so basically I just listed a character who has max stats. So he's basically the best character. On top of that, he also has the second best super in the game. So what I mean by that is it pretty much is just Donatello's super. No one else has a super like Donatello. April and Raphael have supers similar to each other. Splinter's super is pretty unique. But Leonardo's super is like a worse version of Casey and Donatello's. Casey is like only slight, his super's only a little bit not as good as Donatello's. But it does the same thing. It pulls people, it sucks people in just like Donatello's does. And Casey's jumping super is basically just as good as April's and Leonardo's and everyone else's. So there's literally no downside to playing as Casey. He's really good. The only reason I think that Donatello is better is because his range is just that much better and his super is just a little bit better. And also, you do have to unlock Casey, but I'm not factoring that in at all for this tier list. But it is a factor that, like, well, you might as well just play Donatello before you get Casey anyway. But Casey, his movement and attacks are sometimes a little bit strange. They don't flow as well as April's does. And so I think April is probably the most satisfying character to play as besides Donatello. Really, whenever me and my little brother beat the game co-op, we played as Donatello and April for most of the game. And I played a little bit as Mikey from here and there. And that's because my little brother couldn't get off of April. He loved her so much. So, yeah, if April is already picked, then pick Casey Jones. Like, And what you're going to learn here is that if your favorite character is already picked, then just pick Casey Jones, because Casey Jones all around is like, you know, he's a jack of all trades and master of all, you know? So he's just really, really strong and really good. I can't think of a single flaw with this character. So we will now move on to Michelangelo. Now, Michelangelo and Raphael are the two characters who are probably the most honest about their stats. His range in the game is 1, and his power is 2, and his speed is 3. Again, I don't think he feels any worse power-wise than April. So I don't know why he is like considered stronger than April. But his range is definitely lacking compared to April's. And as far as speed goes, sure, he's just as fast as April, no question. But, you know, you're not really getting much benefit compared to playing as April. However, if you look at the pros, this is why you might actually prefer him over some of these other characters. This is why I said you guys might still agree with the top 4. You might not agree with my choices in particular order, but you have to probably agree that these are the best 4 characters in the game. And some people might, you know, I've seen a lot of people who play Michelangelo only and they love Michelangelo, and trust me, I get it. Michelangelo is a fantastic character in this game, and if you're not trying to play as Donnie, then Michelangelo's a great choice. He's probably the best, like, mid-tier example in the entire game, and again, because this game doesn't really, it's not competitive in any capacity, this tier list doesn't really even need to exist, so literally just play Mikey. It's totally fine. He's a fantastic character. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the game. I think he's probably my 3rd favorite character to play, because I actually don't even like playing as Casey that much. I think I actually prefer, I like playing as probably Donnie, Leo, Mikey, and April, but you know, funnily enough, I find myself playing as a lot of Raphael too. Even though I haven't been listed as the worst character. But, yeah, so for Mikey, I gotta say, very flexible combos. What I'm saying with that is him and Leonardo are the only 2 characters in the game where if they finish their combo, instead of knocking them away, the enemy pops up, and you can basically just keep hitting them because you just started a juggle. Their combo ender is a juggle attack. So for Mikey, that's where his whole like damage really comes from. Mikey is really good at annihilating one guy. Whereas Donatello, you know, he can nail a bunch of guys at once, basically. Same with Leonardo. Mikey's pretty good at just annihilating one dude. However, Mikey also has something else going on for him. He has a multi-hit DP that hits 3 times, just like April. But the difference with Mikey is he's the only character in the game who can do a dive kick that bounces them back up in the air, meaning you can dive kick the same enemy twice, or you can dive kick one enemy and bounce into diving kick another enemy. Now, I've been able to do 3 consecutive dive kicks before, but it's pretty hard to do, and for the most part, you just end up doing 2 dive kicks. But it is nice to do a double dive kick on a boss here and there. It's nice to do double dive kick on enemies. But if you do your DP into your double dive kick, that's 5 hits, and you're killing people doing air combos that no other character in the game can do. April, yes, she can do a multi-hit DP into a dive kick. That'll kill some of the weaker enemies. But Mikey can just fucking spam DP and dive kick over and over and over, and he basically just has access to moves that no one else has thanks to his multi-hit dive DP and his multi-hit dive kick. And that's why I also wrote multi-hit moves swag, because not only does he have those, his sliding attack also does multi-hit. He spins on a shell. Most characters' sliding attacks go through enemies and hit a few, but Mikey's actually stops right at the enemy he hit, similar to like Squirtle from Smash Brothers. It hits right there, it stops in place, and then it does about 3 hits. So his sliding multi-hit is one of the best in the game. That's what I'm saying. Mikey is probably up there. The only reason I have him lower than Casey Jones and April in this tier list is because I do think his range and power hold him back a little bit. Because he does feel kind of weak. And I thought about giving him a 3 in power because the game gave him a 2 in power, and the 3 is what I decided what 2 actually means. But I'm no joke. I literally feel like April's stronger than Mikey. I no joke feel like Mikey's just not that strong. Like, I don't know how it's considered that he has the same strength as Leonardo and Donatello. So I went in and left it as a 2. Now, you can still, you know, make the argument that, like, well, I mean, it really isn't any weaker. Like, he kills people in the same amount of hits. But also, you gotta really factor in how bad his super is. He has definitely the worst super in the game. Now, it's got a huge area of effect, but it lasts so short. It's almost like, what's the point of saving up your bar to get that? Now, he can make up for it because he has a good dashing super, but you know, it takes a while to unlock that. And I'm not gonna hold that against him. I'm just letting you guys know that for a while, while playing as Mikey, your super is gonna be kind of lackluster. So I would say it's okay to play as Mikey, but you're kind of doing yourself a disservice if you play as him by yourself. But if you're playing multiplayer, pick Mikey and just have fun. You know, if one guy is Donatello, then Mikey and Don, that is a fantastic team setup. Those are great complementing stats to each other. Fucking go for it. Like, that's really good stuff. So Mikey is, like I said, he's not a bad character by any means. And he might be the most fun character to play personally. He might just be literally the most fun character. But he is lacking in ways that kind of does suck. So really, I think that if you're playing 2-player, playing Donnie and Mikey is very strong. But you could also just play Donnie and April. But if you're playing 3-player, if you want to use 3 turtles in particular, and you don't want to use any human characters or Splinter, Don, Mikey, and Leo probably have the best team comp, because Leo, being the in-between guy, gives him great access to lots of abilities. And yeah, so speaking of Leo, I think it's time to move on to Leo. Now, if you remember Casey is just a 4 in everything, and Leo is a 3 in everything. Now remember, for Mikey, I left his attack power at 2, just like the game it was accurately. So I do think that Leo is stronger than Mikey. I think that you will fuck people up a little bit better using Leo compared to using Michelangelo. So, and also he has more range than a lot of the characters. I think he has, well, when I say a lot of characters, I think I mean particularly he has more range than Michelangelo and Raphael. So I think his range is actually pretty good. I think that he gets the job done as far as that goes, but for the most part, he really is just run-of-the-mill, average down the line. I thought he was one of the better characters until I replayed as April one last time and realized just how far her arm reaches when she uses her microphone to attack. And I was thinking that maybe she would have like a 2 in range, and you know, Leonardo, this would give Leonardo a lot of credibility, but actually they are about the same. So I think Leo is one of the best characters to play again if Donatello's picking. If someone picked Donatello, just pick Leonardo. Because yes, he's a jack of all trades, master of none, but he's probably got the second best range outside of Casey Jones. Which, honestly, I think Leonardo might even have better range with his first attack, just not with the rest of his attacks. So it was really hard to call, but I think Casey still has better range than Leo. And really, April is about equal to Leo's range, so there's no reason to give him 4 range or give Casey 3 range. I was like, no, this is how it works. However, again, Leo gets the job done. Leo is just... Also, Leo's moveset is probably the most similar to Turtles in Time. So what I mean by that is his sprinting attack is a shoulder ram. Now, Raph has a sprinting attack where he sticks his both sides out as forward as far as he can. And this is good because basically it means Raph has really got no range up close, but if he's running in to hurt someone, like Wolverine style, he actually does have some range. And his sliding attack is the same way. He just sticks his sides out, but now he's like sliding forward. So Raph has really good dashing attack. Leo does not. Leo has a pretty lackluster attack. Luckily, his flying attack, aka his dodge roll attack, that is still getting the job done. That's very good. That's what you're going to really be using. But his dashing attack does start a good combo. And like I said with Michelangelo, his combo ender does a little bounce up attack, so you can keep comboing people very easily. Like I said, I think Leonardo is like, if your favorite character is already picked, and maybe, let's say, the secondary character that plays the most like them is already picked, Leonardo's your man. So, Donnie's picked, pick Leonardo. April and Mikey are picked, pick Leonardo. Like, you like Splinter for whatever reason? I don't know. Pick Leonardo. Like, Leonardo is like the man to pick if all the good characters are already picked. He is just, again, he's another really great mid-tier. He's just, and also it's like, oh man, I like Donnie, but I wish Donnie was like 1% faster. There's Leonardo, you know? It's like, oh, I like Casey, but his moves are a little bit weird. He's got some strange norm. Pick Leonardo, you know what I'm saying? Michelangelo's pretty good, but his range is annoying. I don't like getting this close to people. Pick Leonardo. It's literally, that's how it works. So also, I wrote down multi-hit double jump. I don't know what this move's actually called, but if you do your double jump attack, most characters in the game, in fact every character but Leonardo, they do this downward attack from Turtles in Time, where if you hold down jump all the way in Turtles in Time, you slowly fall down and you can swing your weapon multiple times, as many times as you press the button. Leonardo will instead do a spinning attack similar to Zero from Mega Man X, where he just spins forward and doing flips with the swords out. And this will hit more times than you can mash with anyone else's double jump attack. So Leonardo has the best one in the game. Also, it's just a really good way to do damage to people. Also, if there's a group of enemies, you just want to jump at them while your friends are doing, combos on them. Also, it works against bosses. It's just a way to fly by people and just hit them a bunch of times without having to do much. So just like how Mikey has this unique ability to, double jump or double attack people by doing jump attacks with all these multi-hits, and it's just crazy fun. Leonardo also has a way to get in from the air that is unique only to him. So yes, he's a jack of all trades, master of none, compared to Casey, who's like a master of everything but range. And he's close. He's better. He still has better range than everyone else in the game. He's second. He's only beaten by Donatello. Leonardo does have some very unique abilities that makes him feel very fun to play as. So Leonardo's, again, just like if you like Mikey, play Mikey. Again, if you like Leonardo, play this man. I like playing Leonardo a lot because I like to tell people who aren't as good at the game as me to play as the better characters. Like straight up, I play a lot as Leonardo and Raphael. And that's because I want everyone else to have a good time, because I've already beat the game twice using Donatello. I've already beat the game using, well, that's about it. Oh, I played a lot of as Mikey, and that's about it. So I actually really enjoy playing as Leonardo. Also, I wrote down there, supers get the job done. That's because his super isn't as good as Donatello's or Casey's, but it's better than everyone else's. I think Splinter also has a super similar to Leonardo's, where it's not a huge area of effect attack, but it is a pretty big attack and does last a while. So Leonardo and Splinter both have that going on for them. Speaking of Splinter, let's move on to him. Now, Splinter is one of the characters I have the least amount of experience with. Every time I've played him, I've thought, yeah, he's just good. Like, I'm just like, oh yeah, he's good. Now, with him and Raph, you can actually really feel the power difference. Like I said, with April and the other characters, you don't really feel much power difference, but with this guy, you really feel the power difference. Sadly, you also feel a speed difference with this guy. I mean, again, with Donatello, you don't really feel it. Donatello, his speed, it says, if we're going off the 3-star thing, like the in-game stats, it says 1 out of 3 speed. I would say Donatello's more like a 1.5. He's a little bit slower than Leonardo, but not by that much. Whereas Splinter really is, I feel like he's slow as hell. So Splinter, I feel like, yeah, it's a little bit, he's slow, but his range is great. Now, in my opinion, I feel like, again, if Donnie's already picked, then shouldn't you pick like Splinter, because he's just as slow as Donnie. He's only lacking a little bit in range, but he's also strong. Like, don't you want that strength? I already said speed doesn't matter, right? Well, He really is painfully slow. That's what I wrote there. And it's not just because of his walking speed, but his attack animations are also very slow. The good news is that you have armor on a lot of your attack animations. Him and Leonardo, I know for sure, have it. Oh, and Donatello too. But most characters' attack animations are just too fast to notice that they even have armor. But Splinter has lag on his attack animations that last too long. So it's like, not only does he have a slow walking speed, but his attacks are kind of slow. There's just nothing with Splinter here. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like there's no reason to pick Splinter unless you are playing 6 players and you don't have Casey unlocked. If you have Casey unlocked, you should be picking either April or Casey if the 4 turtles are already picked. Otherwise, there's no reason to pick Splinter. He is, though, I will say, though, I still think he's better than Raphael. And the reason why is, well, I guess I'll get to it when I get to Raphael. But I do think his range, combined with his power, is so good that it does make up for his attack animations. But the problem is it might be a little bit dull to play as him. I think he's not that fun to play. However, his dashing super is one of the coolest in the game. I don't know if it's any better than anyone else's, but I will say it's at least really cool. Instead of dashing forward himself, he sends out like an image of himself. So that's pretty dope. So I think Splinter has some of the cooler supers in the game. The problem is I can't say they're better than other characters. Like, are they better than Casey's or April's or Leonardo's or Donatello's? But they're all good. None of them are bad. But Splinter is just sort of like a run-of-the-mill character. But I still had to place him higher than Raphael because Raphael just does not have the range compared to Splinter. Now I'm going to go ahead and get to the worst character in the game. And this is the one that really... Also, before I do that, I do have Splinter above Raph in the mid-tier with Mikey and Leo. And the reason why is because, like I said, he's actually balanced. That range really does work. So it makes him very viable to play as. Alright, now I'm going to go on to the final character. Now, Raphael is a character that I was thinking, this character could be the best in the game because I'm not afraid to get up close and dirty. I don't care about range. And then I actually played the game and realized that it's really easy to get hit and get overwhelmed. And range is actually really important. Yeah, but at least Raphael will be fast and up close, right? Like, that's going to be really fun. And unlike Mikey, who will be fast and up close, Raph will be doing more damage. Like I said, though, damage doesn't really matter in this game. The only thing that really matters is the range. But another thing is that Raph has 3 stars in speed, and yet I have him here with 2 stars, same as Donatello. Again, remember how I said Mikey is supposed to have more power than April, but it doesn't feel like he's that strong? This is the same thing here with Raph. He's supposed to be faster than Donatello. My whole thing with picking Raphael, the reason I wanted to pick him is because that way he'd be a really strong guy, and I'd be able to get in people's faces still, unlike Splinter, who looked like he was going to be just as slow as Donatello. Raphael, I thought was going to be about as fast as Leonardo. Yeah, maybe he has a fast walking speed, maybe he has a fast sprinting speed, but all in all, when you combine everything, he's just not that fast. His attack animations are very, very slow. And I just feel like he's a clunky, slow-moving guy. And it doesn't help that his super has no air effect at all. It's the same as April's, where you have to spin a little tornado move. It's somewhat good for clearing out enemies, but these supers are the worst for fighting bosses. And using supers on bosses, man, that's where you do a lot of damage, especially if you're playing like 2-player or 3-player. You're going to do a lot of damage using those kind of supers on bosses. You don't really want these kind of supers that Raph has. So Raph is the opposite of Donatello. He excels in all of the things that just don't matter, and he fails at the things that really matter. So it's a risk-reward with all these characters, and this is what adds variety to the game. But the Raphael just does not add much to the game as far as his moveset goes. However, if you notice, one of his positives is a fantastic running attack. Like I said earlier, I think when I was talking about Leonardo, so Leonardo does a running shoulder tackle. If Leonardo did a running like double stab with his swords, I think that would make Leonardo like really good. I think that would be an insanely good running attack. But he doesn't have that. He has a shoulder ram, which is what they had in Turtles in Time. Raph, on the other hand, he has his full-on Wolverine claws out. Raph is straight up going berserker mode. And so that's why, if you notice, he's not in the very bottom tier. He's still good. He's still good. And that's the thing about this game. None of the characters are trash and unplayable. So if you want to play the game, if you want to play 6 players, you might be thinking, I don't want to use Raph. But that's not true. Still, I would recommend using Raph over Splinter if you're playing 6 characters. Because you get all 4 turtles. Now, is that the best for the game's, like, you know, again, we're talking about playing as the best characters in the game? No, no. But if you want to have the most fun experience, you're going to want to put Raph because best dialogue. And I mean it. He has the best dialogue in the game. Now, in the 87 cartoon, 88, 89, whatever, I think the first movie was 89. Sometimes I refer to these guys as the 89 Turtles. I think that was the first movie. But the 87 cartoon, I think it was an 87. You know what I'm talking about. The classic Turtles cartoon. The cartoon that started the whole craze. The reason why we have the Turtles. It's not the first iteration of Turtles, because that would be the comic books. But this is a very popular, famous iteration of the Turtles from a lot of people's childhoods, including mine, even though it aired after I was already, like, you know, born. Like, it aired before I was born, and the show was past its prime. We watched it on VHS tapes. You know, my grandmother had VHS tapes of it. I would go to, like, places, and, like, my parents would have dropped me off places so I'd be watched, and they would have VHS tapes of Ninja Turtles. So I'd always watch the show whenever I could. And, like, yeah, Raphael in the show was the smart aleck guy. You know, the whole thing of Raphael is cool but rude. People think of that as, like, Raphael has the anger issues. And that's because that's what the movie did. Now, the movie was probably closer to the comics than the cartoon show was. And the 2000s cartoon show that, I think it was on Fox Kids or 4Kids or something like that. That show is very accurate to the comics and the movie. So what I love about that show was it took basically the old cartoon and combined it with the movie. And I ended up liking it so much. I honestly liked it more than the classic cartoon. And a lot of people do. A lot of people actually really love that 2000s cartoon because a lot of people love the movie. It's straight up, really, it's just because it's capturing a lot of the plots from the movie. And Casey Jones is a much bigger part in that show compared to his part in the classic cartoon. And the fact that Casey Jones is in this game as a playable character, that has nothing to do with that classic cartoon. He's only in like 2 episodes. It has everything to do with the movie and the 2000s show, because the 2000s show was based off the movie. Now, Raphael does not act like he does in those properties. However, he does grit his teeth. He does look angry whenever you're playing as him. He does look kind of scary in this game. But classic Raphael is not a scary guy. Classic Raphael is a smart aleck guy. Think of like Sonic the Hedgehog or something. Classic Raphael is like the funny one, basically. And what I love about this game is when he uses his supers, he still says funny lines like, try these on for size, because he's using size to attack. For some reason, that gets me every time, because it's not that I love corny humor. I actually hate it. But it just fits his character so perfectly, and hearing his old voice acting and everything, it's so perfect. His win animation, he takes the peeps out just like in the opening theme song for the old show. And when you start certain levels, you know, characters will say specific things in dialogue. You can only hear these dialogues if you are playing as the right characters. I don't know every dialogue for every level. I do know that if you fight Metalhead and Donatello is in the game, he'll say, "Don't worry, Metalhead, I'll fix ya." And that's a nice, sweet, cute little moment. And if you use Donatello in the second level, when they rip off the tires, he goes, "Oh man, I just fixed the party wagon." Yeah. So I almost called it the patio I get from SpongeBob. So Donatello's are more like humble and informative about the world and lore. Michelangelo will say something if you go to the mall. He'll be like, "Oh yeah, we gotta go to the arcade," you know, because Michelangelo's like the fun guy. But Raph has all the smart alecky responses, and that's what I love about playing as Raph. So I really think you're gonna want Raph in because that's gonna give you a lot of the attitude and tone from the original show. And yeah, so I think it's always worth having Raph in the game. But if you notice, this tier list is not about who is going to give you the most fun experience. It's all about the best characters to play as. So Raph is the worst character in the game, and I can say that confidently, which is why he's all the way down there. But he's not trash. He's not unplayable. Like I said, I end up playing a lot as Raph and a lot as Leo because I want to just enjoy the game. And also, I'm not afraid of a little bit of a challenge, okay? Donatello's baby easy mode, alright? But I will say it is fun to wail on people and destroy them as Donatello. But I like playing as Raph. I can't explain why. I know he's not as good as the other characters. It just doesn't matter. But there are times where I'm like, damn, Raph is clunky. Damn, Raph is just not that great. Now, I almost gave Raph a 1 in range, even though Mikey and Raph, they're both supposed to have 1 star in range compared to the 3-star rule. I gave them both 2 on here. And I wanted to give him 1, but the reason why I gave him 2 instead of 1, because I think Mikey's range is slightly better. Mikey doesn't even really feel like Mikey's another character where like his range is at 1.5, it's not a 1. Raph's is slightly worse. However, I'm going to factor in his dash attacks, which have amazing range and more than make up for it. So yeah, there's no reason to say, oh, Raph doesn't have enough range. Raph and Mikey both have plenty of range. It's just that Leonardo really makes you, when you play as Leonardo and then go back and play as Raph and Mikey, you say, okay, yeah, maybe they aren't 2-star in range. But basically, no one in this game has such lackluster range where you feel really like you're gonna get hurt by it. The real problem with Raph is his speed is so low, and he doesn't have the range to make up for it. Donatello's speed doesn't matter at all. Raphael's speed does matter. Now, Raphael's speed says 2 out of 3, so you think it would be the same as Leonardo's. But like I said, his attacks just are so clunky, they don't flow well. He's the opposite of Mikey, who has these really flexible combos that are easy to pull off. Raph is just kind of awkward to play as. And again, Splinter, he's slow, but at least he has great range. And then he has that power to make up for that slowness. Raph is, yes, he has the same power and all, but without that range that Splinter at least has, it's like not even really worth it. So only play Raph if you just don't care and you just want to have fun. Raph is a character you play when you want to have fun. Now, you could easily solo the entire game as Raph, but he won't be as fun to play as almost all the other characters. I think he might be a little bit more fun to play as than Splinter, but at least Splinter can get the job done. Raph, you might take a lot of damage with him. I find it's hard to keep your health up with Raph. So, like I said, play as Raph at your own risk. But if you're playing with 4 players, it's a no-brainer to put Raph in, you know? If you're playing co-op, you can play as Raph, no problem. It doesn't really matter. Though I would say he might still be lacking if you're playing 2-player. I think Raph doesn't really become acceptable until you're playing 3-player and up. But this is just all a recommendation. You can play however you want. And like I said, Raph's one of my favorite characters to play because, for one, and I think most people just don't even want to play as him, so sure, I'll play as him. But for 2, again, the dialogue and just the attitude of it all. I also love that his taunt is just him laughing maniacally, which again, it doesn't fit his 80s cartoon character as much as it fits his later personas. However, I think it's fine the way they blended in all the personalities of Raph. And I like that in this game, it doesn't feel like he's just an angry, pompous guy at all times. I don't like pure rage Raphael as much as I like smartass Raphael. Smartass Raphael is like my favorite. He's the best. So in fact, Raphael from this cartoon is probably the coolest and best character overall. I think I like him the most because he's just fun to watch. So they put that fun to watch factor in here for Raph in this game. Great call, guys. So totally worth using him either way. that being said, that's the tier list. And I don't know if you guys are going to watch the full 50 minutes, but I would love to hear comments on, even if you only watch part of it, I would love to hear comments on your thoughts. I would love to hear comments on, like, if you like a character more than whatever. But again, I think most people will probably agree with the first 4 characters being the best. Might be different order, but hopefully you at least hear the part about your character and hear why they are where they are. That being said, I'm going to finish this here because it's about 50 minutes. Though I like making long form content. So, like I said earlier, tier list videos get a lot of views. It's basically an easy way to get views. I don't like shelling out and doing things specifically for views. I like doing tier lists because it's fun. But what I'm saying is that because they're going to get a lot of views, a lot of people who don't watch my content are going to be watching this. My other content gets like 5 views, 6 views, so basically, I don't care if you subscribe. I don't care if you watch my other content. I like having like a small fan base and follower base. This is not really the account where I want to be big someday, be a big YouTuber, be famous. All I really want out of YouTube is just to have conversations and feel like my opinion is hitting somewhere and I'm feeling validated somewhere. And I want people to have an interesting conversation about these topics. I think it's very easy to fall into a drone-like, zombie-like mindset where you are merely repeating what other YouTubers have said, or you're just regurgitating opinions you've heard from here and there. I want people to think for themselves, and this tier list is completely informed by my own opinions. I don't even know if anyone's even fucking made a tier list from this fucking game, because why would you? Like I said, this whole thing is asinine in the first place. But it's a fun little video for people who just want to keep thinking and talking about this game because they like it a lot like I do. And that's the point of what I really do on this channel, is I talk a lot about Dragon Ball FighterZ and Smash Brothers because I do obsess over those games. So this is my new obsession, for at least for right now. And hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, I don't really want subs, but you can sub if you like this kind of content, because this is what you're gonna get. Though I have put probably more effort into this video than I have in a while. That's because this game rocks, and I'm gonna keep playing it. Hell yeah, motherfucker. Alright, so that's that, and hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.